Welcome to 5 Strike Weekly, everyone. Well, the good feelings did not last very long for Atlanta United as they dropped a frustrating match to FC Dallas. This left a lot of us asking, what's next? We discuss all that and more, coming up.
Welcome to the show, 5 Star fam. I'm AJ, this is Tanner McLeod. Before we get into it, become a member of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button or hop over from Facebook and subscribe.
You can now also find all our content on the Geneco USA platform anywhere in the world on Amazon Fire TV, Roku, iOS, Google Play, and many other streaming platforms.
So guys and gals, it was kind of a mixed performance as far as I'm concerned against FC Dallas on Saturday. 2-1 loss. I mean, it's one of those where most of the performance is at least encouraging, but the finishing definitely very, very poor. And of course, yeah, the kind of individual mistakes I think are kind of our undoing in this match for sure. But yeah, on the whole, still, I think, positive signs to a degree, but I think, there is some dissension from fans and part of the division of the fans right now that definitely put some blame on Frank de Boer and maybe put some blame, I think rightfully so, also on the players as well for their performance. But I think it's, it starts off exactly how we've been kind of the past few matches where we concede early. And yeah, against Jesus Ferreira, they just carve us up so quickly. I mean, just a very kind of simple, playing through our press that wasn't really that intense. And I think, while it is good that we are kind of seeing the press back a little bit again, I think it kind of took Dallas out of their initial game plan, because that's what they do well, is they do like to pass out of the back. A couple balls and they're already sliced through our pretty much 6, in the front and in the middle. And LGP makes a boneheaded mistake, and they're right in very easily. Parkhurst doesn't track back, and it's it's 1-0 to FC Dallas very, very quickly.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we rake on over and over again. You cannot concede an early goal, especially at home, because at the bins, teams so often just sit back and defend. And this is one of those teams that does this to everyone. FC Dallas is one of the best teams at sitting back, absorbing pressure, and countering. And when you give up a goal that early on what was a collective failure by the team, highlighted by an individual mistake by LGP, that's the sign of a team that's not playing well. So for all the good performance as far as passing around the ball, creating chances, if you undo yourself at the beginning of every match, you're going to be digging yourself a hole. And I'm not sure what LGP was trying to do going to ground at the midfield line. He basically sells the rest of his defense out, which is already by itself because your attack and your midfield has been bypassed quickly. And then we highlighted the danger of Jesus Ferreira last week and our players to watch. He's one of those guys you had to watch out for. And you just give away a goal that early, and it makes an uphill battle for the rest of the match when you're playing against a team as good defensively as FC Dallas.
Exactly. I mean, because it's full credit to FC Dallas. They were kind of, are undoing in their strengths. Essentially, what they did well in this match is exactly what hurt us, and they were incisive. They only had 3 shots, and yeah, they scored on 2 of them. And well, you also have, in that play where they score the goal, it is, a Parkey that doesn't even get to track all the way back because he doesn't have the recovery speed, which is kind of a problem in this match. We don't have that, that pace to be able to recover for any of the, the quick counterattack that they have. And I think it's the main culprit, I think also, along with that error from LGP, is the lack of intensity in that press, where pretty much so much of our team is bypassed so quickly. I mean, it is maybe symptomatic, but it's also, we haven't really pressed a whole lot this year as well. And so, that lacking intensity is maybe just them not knowing what the trigger points are. That's that main part is, they don't know when to actually all press together, whether if it's, passing it around from the goalkeeper to the defense, and that's okay. You know, that's when we need to go, or when, you know, the back line trying to pass to the midfield. I mean, there's just nothing in terms of, you know, cohesion in that aspect.
Absolutely, and pressing is something that if you don't do it consistently and have a clear plan in how you're going to implement your press, it is very easy to get absolutely picked apart and have your lines broken with very simple balls. And that's something that's happening with Atlanta United right now, because I don't think the team knows where their line of engagement is. Every team that presses, determined by that manager, knows where that line of engagement is. For some teams, think Liverpool 2 seasons ago, they were pressing off the get-go. As soon as that ball is played, they're pressing. That was very symptomatic of Pep Guardiola teams at Barcelona. They pressed very, very high up the pitch. Some teams drop a little bit farther back so that those teams that are attacking them leave space in behind. But Atlanta United so often seems that it's Ezequiel Barco chasing the ball, trying to close it down, tiring himself out. I love the hard work and the effort from him, but
you're wasting energy.
But you're wasting energy.
Yeah.
You're chasing a lost ball that you're never going to catch. It's like a dog chasing after a car. It's never going to get there. And
if you chase in packs, it's a lot easier to block off those passing lanes.
That's important.
If Dallas is able to look up and really find that pass, which is what they were able to do, that's just anybody is going to be able to tear open defense, and anybody as good as FC Dallas at doing that as well. So
hunting in packs, though, like that's the thing. You always hear that phrase about teams that attack and press. Well, attack through defense.
Right.
When they press high, they hunt in packs. They find the ball. They close all the passing lanes down, and that's just not something that Atlanta United is doing right now. And I think that probably comes from the fact that this team still isn't sure exactly what its identity is. What system is it going to play? They've played multiple systems throughout the year that have constantly been changing with different players and different formations and different positions. And if you're constantly chopping and changing, it's hard to find any sense of consistency that will help you get that confidence to take those chances when you actually create them.
Which is what's interesting. I mean, yes, the early thought process on Frank de Boer is that, yes, he's, you know, a Dutch manager. He might be stubborn. He might be kind of stuck in his ways because of his, you know, philosophy and influence. Well, it's almost to a degree where he's maybe shipped all the way to the other side, where there's maybe too much change and there's a lack of identity, except for the stubbornness probably in possession. And in possession, yes, you know, we're really in the 70% range almost every single match. But the issue is yes, as we all know, there isn't always the plethora of really, really quality chances coming from those type of you know, possession numbers, because the lack of risk, the lack of taking that chance with, you know, a through ball or going to the byline or just, you know, something out of the ordinary. Instead of just pumping balls into the box from distance and hoping that Jose Martinez, who's marked by three defenders, can, you know, get a foot on it. Or, I mean, he was working as hard as he could, really. I mean, you know, even like a little Tecker video that they showed today on Atlanta United's Twitter, it showed, yeah, I mean, like, he absolutely can keep the ball and, you know, try to dribble around them, but when you don't give him an outlet, he's pretty much marked, you know, behind him, on his sides. He can't get out. I mean, so he has to pass it back, and, you know, and that's really, again, still not his strong suit either. I mean, he's a guy that needs the ball at his feet in space, whether it's a through ball over the top. I mean, you know, I think we saw that later on, but we'll get to that. But I mean, I think what's kind of really interesting about this match still, though, is that, yes, we did get all those chances after they scored their second one, which, again, is another LGP error.
At that point, though, when they scored the second, yeah, we've got a bunch of chances, but you've just basically gone 2-0 down with, what, 4 or 5 minutes to play. Yes, there's a bunch of added time on, but at that point, of course, you have to throw everything caution to the wind.
Right.
But yeah, that second goal was almost predictable in the sense that you have LGP, and I'm not sure exactly what he's doing. I get that, you know, you're down 1-0, you're trying to attack. But for me personally, I don't understand why a center back will ever be on the wings trying to nutmeg a fullback for any reason. The center backs, I don't care how good going forward you are, no one here is Franz Beckenbauer. No one's making, if you're gonna make a run into the box. Don't be on the wings, because when you're on the wings, you're completely out of position. And I understand having cover, but that's the fullback's job. That's the fullback's job. Yeah. That's the winger's job. That's why you have wide men. They attack the wide space, not a center back. And when he's not getting back to recover his position, Obviously, Dallas won the ball. They play it quickly to the wing. Miles Robinson does everything he can to close down the ball, but by this point, they've had a guy that just lung busted a 75-yard run, and LGP doesn't realize the danger until it's too late. Bish, bash, bosh, you're 2-0 down, game over.
Right.
And it's one of those things where it's like, it's predictable. You can avoid these mistakes, but when you make them, you just shoot yourself in the foot, and that's the problem with Atlanta United right now. It's not just the manager having the tactics wrong. The players are making individual mistakes, which is putting the team under pressure.
Right, but this is, and like our friend Mark has mentioned, it's not dissimilar to what has happened like last year, kind of around this time, maybe more in June probably.
May
but
and June, I think.
May and June.
May was Kansas City, June, or end of May, early June.
And Seattle and in June and stuff like that, where there were a lot of kind of very frustrating low block defenses that we couldn't solve. And
you have the two losses. You have your three. You have your loss at home to Red Bull. You have your loss at home to Sporting Kansas City, and then you draw the two matches against Portland and Seattle.
Right.
That's a lot of drop points. That if I remember exactly last year, we were all very frustrated. I think I may have had a mini rant about it, but you're experiencing that right now. This is not something that's new, and you've seen this before. You know to expect this from teams.
It's just a different time frame in the season because, it's early on when our form hasn't really been there, but we've been able to create the chances in a sense. That's where I think it's kind of a red herring, where yes, we have all these chances, like we were saying later on in the match when we had to take that risk, when we had to push everybody forward, and that's kind of why we conceded to begin with, is because we were trying to make something happen. LGP, yes, does win, I think, 5 fouls, which is really crazy as a stat for a defender.
But should he be the one winning those fouls?
Exactly, and so that's the issue is, he was trying to probably do too much, make up for the mistakes that he was making. He arguably could have been off on a second yellow. I mean, this probably, unfortunately, was LGP's worst match he's played for Atlanta United. Probably on par, or probably, worse
thereabouts with that Minnesota
United. I mean,
he wasn't even on the pitch the full time to give away goals.
Exactly.
So
where we were able to pull out that result, and so at least, we were, result-wise, in spite of the performance, we were able to, pull out something. But for this, that's where, I think, there is the people that will tell you, yes, we had, 22 shots, we had 8 shots on goal. The XG was higher than ever, but, at least for this season. And so, and in terms of the number of chances coming into this match, it's been rising. So yes, there is that. But, when you have a team that's just going to sit back, you're going to get a lot of chances. They weren't trying anything going forward except for being ruthless when they do get that one chance. And so, yes, you do, let them be super efficient. I mean, 2 out of 3,
it's what they do.
Happens.
It's what Dallas does. And it's one of those things where
this happens all over football.
To take a funny soundbite from way back from Monday Night Football, we are who they thought they were. It was exactly what we expected, and Frank DeBoer said as much. It was exactly who we expected Dallas to beat, and they beat Atlanta United in a way that was so predictable.
Right.
It's mind-numbing, and for me, yes, the expected goals higher, more chances created. There is no pattern of play that is identifiable with this team and how they want to play. For a team that's so possession-based, there are so many, we don't know what to do, let's clip a long ball into the box to Joseph, who's being surrounded by 3 guys. There's no ideas. And this is something that Devin touched on in his fan cam, where they're bereft of ideas. Where is the creativity? What's going on? You have these incredible players, but so often, when you do manage to maybe break into space down the wing, Breck Shea or Tito Villalba or whoever's in those spaces, they have one man in the box, and it's Joseph. And he's surrounded by 3 people who are all 6 inches taller than him, and they're clipping a ball into the box, hoping, praying for a second or third runner who's never there.
Exactly, and that's kind of the problem, and that's why I think it's a bad performance in that regard, where there weren't the runners, there weren't the second man run, the third man runs, and so that's why you saw Agresso, he's late on that, that ball that goes across, where if there was a third man run where, he would just run onto it in rhythm, he would tap it in. I mean, it's something to that degree where it's just, it's frustrating because, we're taking desperate shots. It's not as desperate as maybe a Seattle or Portland match where we're just pumping balls in and it's like not the right height. It's too heavy on them, or it's to that degree where it's just a little bit where it could be just a lot better in a lot of regards. But I think it's encouraging. At the very least, I think when PT Martinez came on, those two balls over the top definitely were, our best chances to score, sans the penalty, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think that creativity was needed. I mean, I think, someone like him that's gonna come into the team once he gets that confidence, I think that's, kind of where that upswing can happen. But
pairing that with an Ezequiel Barco, who I think had another very good game. He was unlucky to hit the crossbar and the post. He's definitely showing some confidence in his ability to take shots on goal, whether it be from set pieces from outside the box. So that's an encouraging sign. I mean, his shot in the first half where it was right outside that right footer that hit the post, that was so unfortunate. Then to follow that up with an incredible free kick that was saved.
Yeah.
I mean, to go back, to kind of touch on that Julian Gressel pullback, when you think of the possession game played at its highest level in its purest form, you think of Pep Guardiola. If you watch Manchester City play, how many goals for them, regardless of how deep teams sit, because that's all they do against City, you have a guy running down the wing, gets to the byline, crosses a square ball against the face of goal, and someone taps it into the back post.
Yeah.
Every single time. That never happens for Atlanta United. You never have anyone attacking the front or the back, or anyone charging through the middle of the 6-yard box. It never happens. And for a team that's built around a philosophy of possession and passing teams to death, creating overloads to where you create space via those overloads,
there's not enough movement.
Never happens. It's not enough movement. And you're also never gonna get that when you're playing a center back at fullback and you're playing Breck Shea at fullback, two guys who they have their roles, what they can do, but pace and being able to break down the wings and cross balls across the face of goal consistently, that's not their game.
They're not, FC Dallas is not like thinking that's a danger for them. They probably actually target our fullbacks. And yes, I mean, in terms of Breck Shea, yes, he is limited to, many things, I think, but, I think he gets a lot of.
He was scapegoated a bit after this match, in my opinion.
I don't think it's even solely on him at all. Yes, he's limited. I mean, that's what he is. I mean, he's not super quick. I mean, in the box, probably, he's tall, but he's not gonna win you a ton of balls in the air. I think it's a lack of effort maybe for that, but he does have the cross sometimes, but it's a matter of, like we were saying, there's no one in there because Joseph is marked by 3 people.
Like, what's Breck's? A lot of people complain that Breck crosses to no one, but he gets to the byline or he gets into a dangerous position, and what's he gonna do? Stand there and wait for the rest of the team to catch up? He has to cross into the box. It's not his fault that no one else is there. You don't always know if there's a guy there. You have to rely upon your teammates and that connection, knowing you have people attacking the box.
Yeah.
But if it's never happening, what's he supposed to do? Turn around and pass it backwards? If he did that, everyone would boo him even more. So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of a thing. Fullback.
I think his reputation, like Frank de Boer, has preceded him.
Yes.
And that's where I think a lot of the bias probably comes from for a lot of people. And I think, we just have to be a little bit more objective on a lot of this where, yes, like for me, and this is where I might get a little bit, soapboxy, is for me as a fan, like I don't really like to, at any point boo any of the players or coaches. I understand if you do. I understand the frustration and the tension and the angst that you might have. But, if anybody's employed for Atlanta United, I always back them 100%. And so I think, with that, I don't have any biases against, Breck Shea. Like, yes, if he doesn't perform, then absolutely. Like, he shouldn't start for me for the next game. And I think that's kind of also formationally what Frank de Boer, he's had to deal with, is so much health issues, which is a valid excuse, whether people want to actually think so or not. Yeah, having Franco Escobar, not in there is a big miss. But I think it's a bigger indictment on the club and the front office for not bringing in a body for somebody that can at the very least defend the position and get forward just a little bit. He doesn't have to have a good cross. He doesn't have to be speedy like Franco Escobar. But when you have a Michael Parkhurst who is limited in that degree, where yes, he's very solid and he's got the wiliness and a veteran presence and experience, yes, he can at least defend properly, but that's just not his position. He's being played out of position. And that's why, like, it's not, like, you can put the blame for him not tracking back, but, I mean, basically, he doesn't have the pace to get back to begin with, so it's not really on him.
No, absolutely. I think in terms of positions where once your legs are gone, you are done. Yeah. Fullback is the one position which is possibly the harshest on the pitch.
Especially in the modern game.
In the modern game. Everything else, you can adjust your game to do certain things, to play in a different way. Fullback is not one of them. And to play in this system, fullbacks are so incredibly important. That's why, and I hate to keep talking about a team that I despise, but first season for Pep Guardiola at Manchester City, they finished 4th, didn't play well. What did he go and do? He bought 3 new fullbacks because he didn't have any to play the system. If you don't have fullbacks that have legs that can get up and down the pitch and become involved in your attack, but have the work rate to come back, whether it's Barcelona, whether it's City, I don't care where it is. If you're playing a possession type game, you have to have fullbacks because you need them to get forward to create those overloads on the wings, to create those spaces for players to run into, but also have the ability to run back and track back.
Then you shouldn't play that style.
Then you shouldn't play that style if you don't have the players. And right now, Atlanta is trying to play a style that it does not have the players to play.
Yeah.
And for me, this is where it comes back to the club. Because I think a lot of people are justifiably upset, and that's the club's fault. And to a degree, it's not Frank de Boer's. Frank de Boer, before he was even hired, there was talk coming out of the club of wanting to win the Champions League and the MLS Cup. On the stage at the kit reveal, Darren Eales says, what's a good idea? What's a good season for him? I don't know, a double of the Champions League and the MLS Cup. Before a ball has even been kicked, this is the pressure and the expectation being put on De Boer to play a specific way that you do not have the players to play it. You have to have technically good players at every position to play a possession-based game where you're going to break teams down passing.
And the depth.
Yes, and the depth. I love the long-term goal. I see it. But Atlanta United right now are limited by the league because they can't go out and spend whatever they want. I would be a lot more angry if Atlanta United went out and spent $50 million on a whole team, center backs, left backs, right backs, whatever. They haven't done that. They are limited. They are trying to do the best what they have. They need to go get a fullback. That is very apparent. If they don't address that in the summer like they addressed the midfield problem last year with the signing of Eric Rometty, then that's serious questions about what the front office is doing. You desperately need fullbacks either on the left or the right. I don't care. You need them because right now you're carrying players. Yeah. And you can't afford to do that. You're carrying 1, 2. If PD Martinez plays, he's not going to give you anything defensively. And if he's not doing anything on the offensive end, he's a complete passenger. How do you expect to win games if you cannot execute your game plan because players are being asked to do something that they cannot do? That's not, yes, to a degree, it's the manager's fault because he's trying to play this style. But if he's been asked to play this style and given these players, it's not really his fault when he fails trying to do something he has been asked to do.
Agreed. And I mean, it also comes down to, though, in this match, that Atlanta United, the attackers did not finish the chances. Gressel had a chance. Brett Shea had a chance that arguably I think was our second best chance.
It was a decent chance.
Because that ball at the top was perfect. If he had taken it first time, he would have scored probably if he had put it side net. But I think, he takes that touch and he takes his angle away and it's gone. And he hits it right pretty much hand height at the keeper. It's, easy catch for the keeper. And as well, we haven't talked about where Jesse Gonzalez did. Yes, he stood on his head in this match, but
he also sat on his ass.
Yeah, and he also exactly. And so the amount of time wasting that came from FC Dallas, I think, needs to be looked at by the pro referees because it is in such a degree that it is damning. I think the lack of kind of gall from the referees in this match too. They essentially, I think they lost the plot for me. There should have been yellows earlier. There should have been more frequent for the amount of just fake injuries as
I mean,
well.
how often they just fall to the turf, which must have been very comfortable because it was brand new, because they really love being down on it, going to the turf, pretending like they were hurt, getting up, going off, coming back on, everything's fine.
Right, which, fair play for some of the shithousery.
There is professional shithousery,
Yes.
but this is just stupid.
Yeah, this is where it's, and we'll get to it in the Wasteman of the Week, where it is just absolutely,
Mind-boggling.
mind-boggling how it got even allowed to get that far. And Frank de Boer did mention it after the match. Yeah, he said it happened from the minute one, and I agree. I mean, it's just we were booing, I think, lustily for that very early on. Maybe it started to get in the fans' head about the booing, and they booed later on. Maybe I don't really know what they were booing about because I wasn't part of it, but they were booing maybe the players, maybe Frank de Boer. I'm not sure.
Performance, everything. I think when you look at it, it was just everything combined. Made for a very frustrating afternoon for Atlanta United.
And I think
it was just kind of one of those days in the terms of if you hit the post that many times and your chances just guys that you expect to finish chances like Joseph near the end of the second half threw on goal, misses a chance. It can be kind of chalked up as one of those days, but also it's just like when FC Dallas does that stuff, it kind of takes a little bit away from their performance because it's like, really? Like,
because that is what's frustrating during the match is that you're having to wait 5 minutes on a player and they're down seemingly for no reason. They're grabbing their head, and that takes away some of the momentum that we actually were having in the match. It was it actually allowed them to probably talk about some tactics on the sidelines, get situated, and figure out, okay, what do we need to do to actually stop their momentum right now? And it's really I think with good reason there that it can be agitating.
There's a way to do it professionally, and I guess to the degree they did the perfect job of what they were trying to do.
Sure.
But
they got away with it.
There has to be a medium where you can have a form of professional time wasting. I understand there's ways of seeing out games. Every team does it. But this was ridiculous. I mean, I was watching on TV and I was getting frustrated already knowing what had happened. But sitting here, especially, again, we'll get to the keeper later because he's fun. But all these players consistently going down over and over again. Like you said, at what point does the ref kind of understand they're not hurt? Like,
I think he realized too slow. But in terms of how that leads into the fans, where there is that angst from having to just sit there, wait on nothing, and we're booing that, and then I talk about the booing that happens afterwards, or maybe even the walking out early from the fans, which looks terrible on television and only adds fuel to the fire for our opponents, fans, and whatnot. That they're gonna be like, oh, I told you so. These fans are plastic. They they were never there for the full 90 anyway, and that type of stuff. It just adds fuel to the fire. And for Devon's fan cam, I think I mentioned for shame, because for me, I don't think it's something that I don't think the ultras are doing, but I think it's maybe more of the casuals where they're maybe leaving a little early because for one reason or another. But for me, I think it's what else do you have to do? You're here for the Atlanta United match. Just stay for the entire thing. Oh, you're gonna save 5-6 minutes on traffic? I mean, is it really that big of a deal? I mean, I think it's maybe in that sense where I think for the more kind of Atlanta United till I die type of fans, like you want to see everybody stay till the end. But I understand if you don't. But I think it just looks bad on what has been lauded and in the world as a just unique fan base that's doing different things, that we stand for full 90, and at the kind of first few signs of a little bit of turmoil and obstacles, we can't wither this easily. I think we have to be better. We have to be more together as a fan base. And like I said, if you're gonna stand against something and protest the play, if it's really that bad, then do it together. But walking it, kind of split up, and it's like a half empty stadium. I mean, or probably maybe 2/3 full stadium, something like that. it still is not a good look.
I mean, when you have 45,000 people a game, though, if you have 10,000 leave, you still have 35,000, which I'm pretty sure is more than anyone else in the league. So, like, it's not that bad. For me personally, I'm not too upset about this particular instance because 86 minute or so, you're down 2-0. You're clearly not going to get a win. At this point, do you really want to watch sideways passing and nothing happening for the next 10, 15 minutes? Because the time added on did drag on with Joseph getting that penalty and that whole rigmarole. So I can understand. I see it happen whether it's in the UK, in the Premier League, or in France. It happens at the end of the game. I'll be more concerned if people are leaving early, or if you stop seeing the crowds. But there also has to be the point of, like you kind of said, you have to be stronger because we're kind of in a down period right now with Atlanta United. They're not playing well, it happens. But also, you kind of have to have that support to spur the team on, because if they see you in the stands and you're spurring them on, even if it's the whole stadium that stays till the end of the game and then they boo, at least the stadium was full because they backed the team. They wanted to see what you could do to the very end, and nothing happened. The players care. The players know. But you, as a fan, you have to understand that there is going to be tough times. It's going to happen. We're in one right now. What's going to happen? I don't know. You don't know. No one really knows. If it keeps going bad, then yeah, I'm going to be right there with everyone else booing if the play continues to be turgid and nothing happens. But right now, we're 6 matches into the season. There's 28 matches left. There's a whole lot of things that we can do better. The best of teams have bad runs. At the end of the day, I'm like you. I'm going to support this team every single minute of the day and hope that they can win, and have to believe that they can win, because wanting this team to lose and actively seeking the failure of people involved is just not something that crosses my mind. And that's coming from someone who had to deal with Jose Mourinho as their manager. And at the end of the day, I would still rather see my team win, even if it means the person I don't like that's in charge still being there, because the club and winning is more important than individual egos or whatever it is.
Exactly. Or proving your individual biases against certain coaches or players or any of that. I mean, I think it's really, of course, you can be critical of these performances and whatnot, because that's what sports is. That's,
and they're not good. So by all means, I'm not saying that people don't have a right to their opinion of wanting either to bore
on. It's the great distraction. That's what sports is.
Exactly. And I fully understand why people are frustrated, why people booed, why people left. Me personally, that's just not how I am. I've already paid my season ticket. I'm gonna be there all game because what am I going to miss in the last few minutes? We might see a goal. I mean, who knows?
I think it's just on a whole, the fan base needs to get together on this, because yes, people are, I think, afraid of what the ghost of sports past has happened in Atlanta, where Atlanta Braves, the fans kind of took for granted the playoff chase and the playoff run that we had, where it was 18 straight, I believe, and yeah, you have Atlanta Hawks, who have been kind of bang mediocre for just their entire existence, pretty much.
They have Trae Young now; they're balling out.
And you have also Atlanta Thrashers, who they were a new team as well, but yes, they didn't win, but they weren't the most well supported either. On some certain periods of time, they were, but I think once the Winnipeg owners, once they were already set in, then people kind of knew what the writing on the wall was. You have that. You have Atlanta Falcons, where there has been a lot of mediocreness, and yes, a lot of empty seats, and that's where people are. It's a lot of transplants in this city, and yes,
that's why I'm not really worried about this, because for me, you've won a championship in your second season. You're on the whole, the club is heading in the right direction. The league is heading in the right direction. The sport is growing. You have people that have never become soccer fans who are becoming fans, which is why you need to continue to play well. But for me personally, I'm not overly worried about it yet, because I just think it's a short-term thing. If you see long-term issues, then you have a problem. But for me,
I want to nip it in the bud.
I understand a person who's Atlanta-born and bred being afraid, but I'm not.
Not Atlanta-born, but yes.
Well, yeah, you get what but you're Atlanta through and through. You're Atlanta through and through with your sports and in this city, and you live and breathe it. For me, I'm just not worried about it yet, but I get the fear, but I think Atlanta is different, and I've always said that from day one. Again, maybe that's my ignorance in being a transplant, but something about this team seems different. Whether or not they're struggling, I'm not worried about things falling off. I think things are going to be okay at the end of the day, which is why I'm managing to stay positive through all this, because I believe things will be okay.
Yeah. Now, if things do get a little bit where performances are slipping and results are not in our favor, then yeah, I think that dissension is rightfully so gonna get louder, and I will be with you guys on that type of thing.
And that gets back to the point of things do have to improve.
Exactly.
Because to kind of wrap this match up, and because there's a lot more we have to definitely get into today, because today was not a slow news day. No. This performance was meh. It was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
It needs to improve. You have to get a win next week, which we'll talk about in the preview, because you have big games on the horizon.
Right.
But you can only trot out the "it was an improved performance" line so many times before it's enough.
Because
and
especially
excuses run out.
Especially after the Columbus Crew match. I mean, yes, that definitely was a there was that, and then so you have to prove your point now. Here with New England Revolution, which we mostly did, with an away win on the road and a shutout. So that is why it's encouraging, and that is why there was like, okay, if we can keep this up, then there is some, maybe bluer skies on the horizon. But for this match, I mean, it's a step back, whether you like it or not. I mean, the result was not there. The performance was halfway there. And so, yeah, I mean, I think there still needs to be
7 out of 9 points at home this
home.
season. And if you can't pick up points away, you have to pick up points at home.
Yep.
And right now, Atlanta United are doing neither, which is why people are frustrated, and which is why it's so critical that this team and the manager need to start turning things around, because the longer this continues on, the louder those dissenting voices are going to grow, the more people you're going to see walking out at the end of matches when the game is lost.
I hope not.
And that's a problem. But if you turn results around and can get things going, which these players are capable of doing, because this team won a championship at the end of last year.
Just 4 months ago.
Just 4 months ago, or 5 now at this point. It's possible. Not possible. It's probable. These guys are good. They haven't forgotten how to play soccer.
Yeah.
So
it's just
get things going. Damn it.
Yeah, it's bad form, and it's also a lack of confidence and conviction, in my opinion. Because, if you cannot, if you don't think you're going to score, which is what Julian Gressel said this week, is that, they actually think that, when they actually get in front of goal, I'm not really sure if I'm actually going to get this one in. And that's a terrible mindset if you're in front of goal. You have to be cool, you have to be icy, and they just don't have that right now.
If you don't believe the ball's going to go in, it's probably not going to go in.
Exactly, and that's more often than not. It's probably not going to go in. But I mean, some of the other things that were said after the match, Frank de Boer talked about how, if we play like this for, extended periods of time, then we're going to win 28 out of 30 matches. That's where I disagree, is where it's definitely, if it's this mixed, I mean, if you, concede that early, you pretty much have, just individual errors that just are your undoing.
And a lack of chances created till after you're 2-0 down.
Exactly. And where, your lack of finishing, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, that's where the finishing will get better. That's where the XG stat, does come in. And it's like, okay, that is slightly encouraging if these guys can put it away. But you've seen guys in other leagues that, they once were really good strikers, and, their XG might be high, but for one reason or another, their conviction in their strikes isn't there. Like say Radamel Falcao, Fernando Torres. I mean, they just fall off a cliff off of that. I mean, it's a lot to do with what's between the ears, I think. So
I'm not worried about that with Joseph.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's got enough confidence, and I think this penalty hopefully will really kind of spur him on in that mindset of really being the mean-faced Joseph that we wanted to be.
Sometimes all I gotta see is hit the ball hitting the back of the net.
Exactly.
And then you'll be good to go. So he's gonna have a good chance of that, but we'll break that down later.
Yeah, indeed. But guys, let's move on from this match slightly, where we get into the news where Dion Pereira got his MLS debut. That's where, I mean, it was maybe good to see him come on, but you thought maybe the substitution might not have been the right person.
I didn't understand the substitution, because you're chasing goals, so you bring on an attacker for an attacker. Why not take off Michael Parkhurst, have Julian Gressel play as a wingback, play Dion Pereira higher up? I mean, you still had a sub left at the end of that game.
Exactly.
You have a Romario Williams sitting on the bench. You have an
Exactly.
Andrew Carlton sitting on the bench. You're chasing goals.
Right.
Why
Bring
are
on
these
more
players
attackers.
not on the field?
Yeah, like it doesn't matter at this point. You know, the if we get scored on one more time. I mean, yes, to a degree, because you know, goal difference and whatnot sometimes. But I think you're chasing this game. You're trying to get a result. Like you have to put, you know, as many
All your attackers
people
on.
forward while still mitigating that risk. And I think you could have. I mean, in terms of still on the pitch was Jeff Lorenowitz, still Miles, still LGP. If you have them three back, you can still have, you know, and if you're instructing LGP to stay back, then, you know, I think you're at least going to be a little safer in the back at that point. But so
Congrats,
that's also.
But congrats again to him before
Yes,
we jump too
indeed.
much into it, because without going on for this game for
Yes.
ages, which is easy to do because
Yeah,
there's just
so
so
much
much
happened.
about it.
Yeah.
But congrats to Dion Pereira for his debut. Hopefully the first of many, and
Indeed.
some better results to follow as opposed to this one this past weekend.
Indeed. But yeah, some you know, XG stats that may annoy some people, but I think is still very interesting. And kind of adds a different perspective of Atlanta United's season so far. From Analysis Evolved, that Twitter handle, great kind of statistical analysis going on with them. Yeah, it says that Atlanta United is third in the East in home-adjusted expected goal differential.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, and that means pretty much that, yeah, I mean, you know, we still have really, just a ton of chances at home, which is, yes, what you want when you're playing at home. I mean, you want to be able to be the one getting the lion's share of the chances. But
Just not hitting the back of the net, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's all XG is kind of a stat. But maybe it kind of takes away from the idea that they're not creating a lot. They
Right.
are. It's just not going in. I don't fully buy into that
right,
because I think
it's still what's between the
yeah,
years.
it's still what's between the years, and also how those expected goals have kind of come about,
Right.
and what those chances that have gone to that stat have come from. It's kind of been when games are gone, or they're half chances that have added up because.
Right.
Well, if you have the ball 70% of the game, you're going to have a lot more half chances here and there that will add up to that. But
Right.
I definitely think it's an interesting perspective on things. But at the end of the day, if the ball's not hitting the back of the net in the actual match, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Right, and so the beta version of their playoff seeding projections also gives Atlanta United still a 68% chance to make the playoffs. Now, I mean, you know, that's 7 spots in the playoffs, so it's still, you know, of what, 12.
Well, you're
so,
3 points back right now of the team ahead of you, and you have a game in hand. So,
Right.
I mean, it's not like they're far outside of touching distance of the playoffs right now,
Right.
but if you keep digging this hole you're in, it'll be
Right.
much more difficult to get out of it.
Right, and we have to perform on the road if that is the case, because yeah, if you are in one of those kind of lesser part of those playoff spots, then yeah, you probably have to play on the road, and that's not encouraging if we're not performing. But let's move on from that, and let's get on to where unfortunately Jose's aunt's car got vandalized after the match. And yeah, it's according to AS.com, and and Mundo Hispanico that had the exclusive on that apparently. But yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't know who it was. I mean, it could have been anybody really.
Could have been random.
Yeah, it couldn't have it could have been where it wasn't even a fan. It could have been somebody else. You know, just roaming the parking lots.
It's kind of one of those things that happens around that part of town.
Yeah, unfortunately, but it's sad to hear. I'm glad that though it was reported that nothing was stolen and everybody was okay, but a window was smashed. But yeah, I mean, you know, if you know anybody that is doing that, I mean, then, you know, you should probably, you know, call the cops. But
Apparently the cops are actually really useless in this whole scenario as well. So
took a long time to get it done, which is not surprising.
it just wasn't a good Saturday for anyone involved with Atlanta United.
Yeah, I don't mean to bash cops at any point on that. It's just I've had my you know, a traffic thing happen here and there, and it's like, oh yeah, I mean that took about an hour and a half. Great.
Oh, yeah.
I understand. It's a busy city though, so let's move on though. Yeah, one of Atlanta United's supporters groups, Footy Mob, got a awesome documentary with Roger Bennett of Men in Blazers and Reggie McKee, one of the capos of Footy Mob and Atlanta United, of course. Yeah, I mean, just he got a little spotlight. Awesome to see.
Well deserved as well.
Yeah.
The impact he's had on the community
Exactly.
and what he does and what everyone does through not just Footy Mob but all the supporters group. But in this specific highlight of Footy Mob, It was a great documentary. It was done by Roger Bennett and ESPN.
Yes.
So if you haven't had the chance to check it out, go check it out. A little bit of love, a little bit of good feelings to make everything kind of feel a little bit better right now with Atlanta United.
And yeah, this is the capo that kind of brought on Loretty as, kind of our, I think our...
anthem almost.
Yeah, exactly. You'll Never Walk Alone right before matches. It really pretty much is.
Thank God it's not You'll Never Walk Alone.
and so it's stuff like that. I mean, he's brought on a lot of very, very memorable and iconic chants at this point that, just keep it up, Reggie. Yeah, you're a boy. But, and so... also, a familiar face from the academy, Zion Jones, has signed with the Charlotte Independence after, unfortunately, not getting a contract with Schalke. It's you like to see guys that, unfortunately, we weren't able to sign him for Atlanta United 2, probably because we have a glut of forwards and whatnot. But he's a guy that is a pacey, powerful winger. Hopefully, he kicks on really well for Charlotte Independence. He's a guy that, I was shocked when he wasn't signed initially. And
hey, maybe if he plays really well for them and it works out, we'll just be like, hey, we'll have you back now.
Right.
So, but getting into another more MLS-specific bit of news that, to me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense at the moment. MLS has announced that it has the design to expand to 30 teams. It already has 28, I believe. They will be adding Sacramento and St. Louis. I believe that Detroit is also on that list as well. They have Miami, but that's currently not really doing too hot. No one really knows what's happening there. So I'm kind of in the mindset of MLS might need to slow its roll a little bit. They've added some really good expansions recently. They have some really passionate fan bases, but I don't know how a soccer league no less, is going to look with 30 teams. I mean, I don't want to sound like a Euro snob, but I'm used to between 18 to 22 teams in a league. You play everyone twice. I mean,
it just won't happen.
It's not going to happen. You're starting to get to the point where Supporter Shield's going to mean less because there's no competitive balance in your scheduling.
Right.
I have no idea what they're going to do or what the stopping point's going to be because it's really growing really quickly, which isn't a bad thing. I love to see the sport growing, but I'm not really sure what the model or the plan's going to be.
Right, and I don't think you'll see promotion and relegation soon
at
all.
I think that's a ways
because the expansion fees just to get these teams in, it's getting up there, and I think it's starting to be where I think the last ones are going to have to pay $200 million in expansion fees just to get in the league, and so that goes to everybody, all the owners, and of course MLS. It starts to you start to get questions about the
ethics.
The ethics, the absurdity. Maybe?
I saw a really interesting article on Deadspin that it compared MLS in a sense to a Ponzi scheme almost.
Take that with a grain of salt.
Take that with a grain of salt, of course. But they kind of had some valid points where you have new teams coming in and you have, say, your Robert Krafts or your Stan Kroenkes who do nothing, and they're getting, what, $20 million check every single time one of these new teams come in, and they're not really doing anything to add to the league. And they're just these old guys that don't really give a crap about soccer getting large money payouts for the league growing. And for me, it just doesn't really sit well because you have these fan bases and these teams that are coming in that want to play, that want to improve their communities with these teams. And then you have other teams that are the exact opposite, that don't really give a toss. And it's like, maybe instead of adding more new teams, you might want to think about getting rid of some older ones because what are they really doing for your league at this point in time? So I'm glad to see the sport expanding, but I definitely think there's some question marks there about how they're doing it and what the final goal is.
Yeah, I don't know if contraction is going to be something that's on the horizon either, so it's going to be interesting days ahead for sure. But let's move on to the transfer rumors of the week.
Got some rumors.
Yeah,
we got two.
Yeah, and so, is the Darlington Nagbe thing, is that an issue that's still ongoing?
Apparently so.
Yeah, apparently so. So Chris Furmeister of ProSoccerUSA.com, he apparently asked in the press today, or in the press scrum with Darlington Nagbe, that Matt Doyle talked about, you might see that Nagbe still have a chance of moving on. Nagbe was like, and I quote, "Honest answer, I don't know. I'm just showing up, playing. Maybe that's a question for the club." It's a very non-committal answer for sure, and worrying, I think. But also, if you look at it in a positive light, it's like, I mean, he's not saying that he wants to leave, so that's good.
Might just be the default, I'm not going to say anything answer because he can't commit to it, because if he does get traded, then he kind of looks like a dick. But if not, he leaves the door open. So it's player speak. My thing right now is trading Darlington to Nagbe would be absolutely insane because he is one of the best players at being able to move the ball in a possession system. Without him in this team, I cannot even begin to imagine how much more we'd be frustrated with the performances.
For sure. Because I think you would see what it would look like it was against Loretty. So that was not fun.
So another little interesting rumor: Pity Martinez back to River.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff maybe, but yes, the source is hold on, give me a second. Doble Amarillo. There we go, and. Marcelo Gallardo of River Plate, the manager, he's apparently, good, why wouldn't they be? They're good friends, PT Martinez and Marcelo Gallardo, and they talk on a weekly basis apparently. And he has an idea that he wants to bring him back. He's kind of vying for the directors to make that move. Whether PT actually asked for a move or not is completely unknown.
But I'm giving this zero credibility.
The feasibility of it is they're still going to analyze it, and apparently, according to the article, the next month is going to be key. So with full disclosure there that these type of sources tend to kind of get a little crazy with their rumors, and so I would say it's kind of between a take it with a grain of salt and whatever larger grain of salt that is, but I think it's not the most plausible.
It makes no sense. I mean, why would you pay 15-ish or so million for a guy only to send him back? Will there be on a loan? I don't think they can afford to buy him back. So because they use that money, I'm pretty sure, to pay for their team. So where would they get that financially? For PT Martinez, that's basically saying, well, I have no aspirations to go to Europe, because if you didn't do anything in MLS and you took a step back to Argentina, what team in Europe is going to come get you because you failed in Major League Soccer? So I personally don't put a lot of credence into it. Things have kind of been not a great start, so let's give him some time and see what can happen.
And also Doble Amarillo, they mentioned, he wasn't quite getting assimilated in the United States yet. And
have you seen LGP's cookouts?
Exactly,
That's just like Argentina, right?
Yeah, exactly. the Dobo, I mean, it's like, hell yeah. If you have that, I mean, it's not the closest thing. I mean, you don't have your wife and kid, but I mean,
hopefully they can get here soon.
Exactly.
That probably would help a lot.
That's apparently there's a rumor that they apparently are. That's not confirmed yet, so don't quote me on that. But I mean, at least if they're in town, and
having your family definitely makes them feel like home a whole lot more.
And some people asked in the comments, like, why didn't they they do it sooner? But that's the thing. It's
the immigration rules and all kinds
immigration
of stuff
rules,
like that.
and especially the wife not being a wife until like last week, and then you have kind of just uprooting your entire life. I mean, imagine that, like you going to a
new country where you don't speak the language and having to assimilate immediately. And I
with
mean,
the
their
food
daughter,
difference and
new
all that
school,
type of stuff.
all that kind of. Well, how old is the daughter?
She's very young.
Okay, well,
very young.
That's a plan, and you have to have her learning a new language, which is good. I mean,
but they don't know the language. It's being a son of immigrant parents myself. I mean, they definitely had some trouble. At least speaking English with me initially. They've definitely learned now, but it's. There still is always, they don't know the schoolwork even. Like there's a ton of things that go into when you go to a new country, and especially if, you're just there alone. It's gonna be just crazy. But
big challenge either way. Give the man some time.
Indeed. And quickly to touch on Atlanta United 2, they had the week off and are gonna play Wednesday night against the Tampa Bay Rowdies. So good luck to them. And they've also set out a whole slew of theme nights, no doubt, to get you to the stadium. And so check out all those. They have some really fun ones, and I think it adds to a little bit of the dynamic of the kind of Atlanta United experience for sure. But let's move on to the mailbag. You guys send in these questions through IG story. Please continue to do so, and we may answer your question in the future. First question comes from P Magnus N. When should I start to panic about this team? Will this be the lost season? Also, a similar question. Joserd is. That's my best crack at that one. Yeah, I don't know. And how much longer do you give FDB before being sacked?
I mean, it's a really interesting thing because MLS is a very peculiar league where you can go from first to worst to first very, very quickly. I believe the last team to repeat as MLS Cup champions was the LA Galaxy, but that team featured a Beckham and a Donovan, so that will do something. But it's a very interesting situation because you brought Frank de Boer in on a long contract to build something out. It would not shock me if Atlanta United struggled and tripped their way through this season, only to come back next year and absolutely blow the doors off people. That's one of those weird quirks about MLS. It's a very peculiar league that doesn't really function like everything else. So could it be a lost season? Yes. Could it turn around next year, be incredible? Yes.
Could it turn around this season?
It'd be incredible.
Yeah,
yes.
It would be, we would have to take kind of the unprecedented run that a Seattle Sounders had.
But you don't have to win the Supporters Shield and finish first to win MLS Cup. So if this team manages to figure itself out and gets hot, who knows? We could look back in November and be like, wow, we were all crazy because Atlanta United just won its second MLS Cup. Right. We don't know. There is so much going on right now. The players are frustrated. The coach is frustrated. The front office is frustrated. Yeah. They know that. They're trying to get somewhere. Yeah. I don't really think there's a great answer because who knows?
There isn't. But the case is, though, and the fact is that we're a fourth of the season gone. And so, that is, yes, a big chunk of the season that through that, we only have 5 points. I mean, it's, not exactly the most encouraging out the gate, of course, but yes, there have been epic turnarounds. I think you just have to hope if that is the case, but I think the expectations have to be lowered now, especially from what Darren Eales and the front office have said. I think everybody, they've definitely backtracked on that as well. They've, preached more patience as well. And I think for our sanity, for, that, I think we almost have to buy into that as well. But while still keep a critical eye on what, the whole club as a whole is doing. Because yes, I mean, we should expect more. Because, I think we have proven that, when you put a good product on the field, we show out. And not only that, if it's a bad product, we should probably still try to back the team as well. But, there is only for so long. If it starts to be a pattern, then of course.
If you just keep losing games, then that's a problem.
Yeah. But, next question comes from Nichols Odian. In this loss, did we learn how integral Eric Rometty is to the team? I think, to a degree, he is, important, very, very important. But also, I mean, I think it's also, Loretty does offer a different dynamic that Eric Rometty does not have that is also helpful. And so, while he may be, lauded by some and also maybe slated by some, I think he's kind of somewhere in between where, yes, he may have affected some of the play, but I think largely on a whole, I mean, the play really kind of superseded him. He really wouldn't have affected too much outside of that.
I don't know if this is the match where it's like, you definitely missed Eric Rometty because there was so much with the ball, and Loretty is the perfect guy to kind of recycle that possession and pass it back around. Rometty gives you a lot of energy in running, but with Dallas sitting so deep that there's not really much I don't think he could have influenced as far as that goes.
And in terms of creativity, he is a little bit more creative than a Jeff Loretty. But I mean, in terms of recycling the ball, he's definitely, not a Jeff Loretty. But, and especially in the air, not that either. But I think,
he's an important player, but I don't think this is a game that necessarily would have highlighted how important he is to this team.
Right. Next question comes from Me-To-Ni. It's funny. With the lack of depth at left wing back, was the Gammon Tam worth trading Garza for?
Hindsight's 2020, I guess. When you look back, I don't think you would have expected this. You got to remember that he has spent some time on the injury table already for FC Cincinnati this season.
So it would have been kind of similar situation.
Yeah, that was one of the big reasons why you traded him, because there's not a highly unlikely possibility that had he stayed in Atlanta, that he would not be injured again. That's one of those things that's a recurring problem. Don't get me wrong, I love Greg Garza, and if he's fit and running up and down the left, Atlanta United is a better team for it, but they kind of hedged their bets on that, and it wasn't the worst decision in the world, and unfortunately, yes, is it biting you in the ass right now? It is, but again, hindsight's 2020. You never could have known.
Exactly. You can't guess injuries. Well, maybe to Mikey Ambrose, where he kind of already had that injury, and he's kind of had slight histories of that. But and then of course George Bello with the groin injury that keeps him out for most of the year so far already.
Niggle can just stay there for a very long time.
Exactly, because it's it's part of the kicking motion, and if it just tweaks just a little bit, you're back to square one a little bit. And, so he's been working with coaches outside of that. Apparently he's, getting back with the team, but not to full training. So, we'll see. We'll see about that. But next question comes from Keaton Thomas, 61. Against Colorado, who in your minds needs to step up and show out to get us 3 points?
The whole team? Is that
might be a cop-out answer?
Is that a cop-out answer? Yeah. But I mean, I don't want to get too much into this because we do have the match preview in a little bit. Yeah. But if I had to highlight one individual player, I'm gonna say Joseph Martinez, because I feel that when he gets his chances and he scores and he gives that mean face, it kind of energizes everyone because. Sure. He's your man. He's your talisman. When he's firing, I think everyone behind him is confident because they know all we got to do is get this guy the ball and he's going to put it in the back of the net. So if he can find form, I think a lot of Atlanta's problems might start melting away because he's just such a force of personality in terms of on the pitch that when he gets going, there's not much that can really stop him or Atlanta United. Yeah,
for me, I think it's LGP if he starts. Because, with the mistakes that he had that were a big part of why we conceded those 2 goals, it kind of undermined the attack a little bit because, we don't get that momentum, and it allows Dallas to kind of shithouse their way around the match. And so if he can keep his head, if he can, maybe at least keep a clean book of record, then I think it bodes much better for Atlanta United. And so I think that at least kind of lets the attack be the attack and puts less pressure on them and puts less onus on this strike needs to be perfect and it needs to go in the net every single time I strike a ball. Like the less of that happens, the better. But last question comes from Joshua Rutledge. How empty can the bins get if we continue this bad run? That's not something I want to think about, but...
I'm not actually worried about it. There's so many people that I interact with on a daily basis that want to go to matches but can't either afford to or just they just don't have the chance to. So if people stop going, just put your tickets up for sale. People will buy them. I think there's still a large demand for people to go and see this team, and just don't complain when the team starts turning things around and you're not at the matches anymore, because clearly if you can't stick with them when they're poor, how can you really deserve to enjoy the success when they're good?
It's true. So guys, that does it for Mailbag. Thank you for sending those questions in, guys, and that gets us to the Wasteman of the Week.
Jose Luis Gonzalez, you are a certified wasteman for many reasons. Did you guys know that he already has 3 yellow cards this season for time wasting? 12 in his career. Taylor Twellman called him out on air for faking injuries repeatedly. So don't feel bad, Atlanta United fans. It's not just us, it's everyone. And for me, it's really frustrating because you have a keeper who is incredibly talented, as we saw, who has the maturity of a 3-year-old on the pitch. There is a way to professionally waste time, but to fake injuries, especially head injuries, that's an issue.
Yeah, that's a massive kind of FU to the kind of concussion things that have been happening, not only in soccer or football or just every sport in the world pretty much is dealing with concussion things. And for you to feign an injury to your head, to take advantage of that, because you know that they're going to give you some time.
It's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah, that's garbage. Despicable.
Especially at a position where he gets to stay on the pitch.
Right, exactly. So it's very difficult to just, red card the keeper for doing that or anything like that. I mean, I think, with it probably deserved a yellow sooner, and then I think, especially at that point, I mean, it should have been.
It's ridiculous.
It should have been.
He's the closest player to a suspension for FC Dallas right now.
Yeah, that's
just because of time wasting. So, time wasting, waste man of the week, Jose Luis Gonzalez. I am so angry with you, but I would also love to have you at Atlanta United. And I'm not going to lie, to have a keeper, minus the time wasting bits of that talent on the ball, I'm not going to lie, he wouldn't be bad between the sticks. But if you're not playing for my team and you're going to continue to disrespect the game in the way that you're doing, yeah, piss off, buddy. Waste man of the week.
Indeed. But guys, that gets us to our match preview, and it's Colorado Rapids, and it's Saturday the 27th at 6 p.m. at the Benz. And I think this is the epitome of a must-win match if there ever was one. It pretty much is the definition, because if we win, yes, it is the expected. We should win. If we don't put in the performance, then there's going to be a lot of questions asked. If we don't get a result, then oh my God, it's going to be not the little dog in the meme where this is fine with the fire and flames around him.
It will not be fine.
It will not be fine.
It will not be okay.
It will be full on Diablo fire. Everything's on
everything.
Fire.
The world is ending because, and to be fair, things might turn around after that. But I'm gonna be furious if Atlanta United do not get a result this weekend. They've played 2 matches against Colorado. Colorado has yet to score a goal past Atlanta United. Colorado has also been shipping goals for fun. In their last 4 matches, they've shipped at least 3 goals in each match. 3 twice and 4 twice. Yeah. They are not good defensively. This is a team that is there for the taking. This sets up perfectly for Atlanta United to exercise all of the demons it's had this year by going out and absolutely taking a team to task.
Right. And I think, the expectations, hopefully, I mean, they may be that high because they have to be, but, if they don't, then is it a, damned performance where, it really is a lose-lose type of situation. They have to. They have to.
This is
They have to get a W.
This is the worst team in Major League Soccer for the past few years, and you're playing them at home. Score a goal early, and this team will fold like a house of cards. Yeah. Give away a goal early, and everyone is going to be pissed and have the right to boo because, again, really, this game has to be a game that Atlanta United finally puts together a complete performance. It's like you said, it's not just a win. Colorado is not good at all. Like I've said, you have to win and play well. If you can't win and play well at home against the Colorado Rapids, what are you going to do against a good team? Yep. God forbid we had to play LAFC this week. You have Colorado. This is, the perfect chance for you to turn around and get things heading in the right direction.
Yep.
You needed 9 points out of the past 3 matches, including this one. You have 3 already. Now you have to get the next 3 because then you're going to have Toronto, you're going to have Kansas City on the road, you're going to have Orlando at home, which is turning out to be a much bigger game than we thought at the beginning of the season, and you're going to have a bottom of the table scrap with Red Bulls. But that's not going to be an easy game because it's in New York or New Jersey against a team that always beats you there. Right. So you're not exactly in a position where you can afford to drop more points, especially against a team of this quality.
Right. And so the lack of quality really, I think, is really the highlight here. But they are good on set pieces. They do come back from losing positions. So they will be kind of frustrating probably to some degree because, they kind of can attack some of the weaknesses in terms of some set pieces for us at times. They're great at aerial duels as well. And so, it's something that, we will need to be wary of. But I think, are better off this year in that regard because of a Miles Robinson more in tow. And, if Jeff Larentowicz is playing in this match, then, it might be a little bit mitigated to a degree. But, they definitely are really, really bad at defense. So
they've lost 8 out of their last 10 games on the road in MLS.
Yeah.
And they concede almost 3 goals a game this season in MLS. They conceded 4 at Orlando in a game where they basically got kicked in the chest at the very end of the game. I mean, this is not a good team. I cannot stress this enough.
Yeah.
No disrespect. They have some canny operators in this team. I mean, they have Kai Kamara. He's been around the league and won a Golden Boot. They have a Benny Feilhaber. Same thing. He's been around the league. These guys know what they're doing and know how to dig out results. But the players around them, Not so much.
Also, Diego Rubio, who's not in the best form, maybe, but yeah, I mean, I think a decent player as well.
He can offer a threat from out wide. He's the type of guy that can play that through ball that you saw us concede from this past week, which is kind of the terrifying bit about him.
And of course, Tim Howard, it might be his last MLS match in Atlanta, and so we don't want to see a vintage Tim Howard at all.
I want to see a reason why it's his last MLS performance or last MLS match in Atlanta. I mean that no disrespect to the man. I still love him for all the saves he made against Belgium back in the 2014 World Cup. But on Saturday, I hope he can't save a single shot that goes at his net.
He's not on our team, so I want us to put as many goals as we can past him, and that's kind of one of the keys to this match is how are we going to finish? And, in terms of our chances, we have to put these away, and especially against the leaky defense, it's very, very important.
They're going to struggle to keep hold of the ball. Atlanta United is probably going to have more possession this week than they had against Dallas. They're probably going to have more possession this game than they've had at almost any game they've ever played.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if it's over high 70s.
I think it's going to be. It could be
over 80.
It could be 80.
Man.
I mean.
That's insane.
No. This is the type of game. Colorado is going to sit there and make sure they don't concede. That's the if Colorado tries to.
Then they're still going to
concede. If they try to play an open game, they're going to get taken to pieces because there will be space for Atlanta United to attack into. Atlanta United has to be aggressive from the get-go. It cannot be, let's wait till later in the match to go for the jugular. Atlanta United has to come out guns blazing, pressing them high as a team, as a unit, and going at them. But the question for me is, who starts in some of these positions? Who starts at right back? Is PT Martinez going to play? Who starts at center back? Is LGP going to get dropped? There are so many question marks after this Dallas game that need to be answered in this match.
And as of Tuesday, which is when we're filming this, at least for the injury report, Eric Loretty has returned to training, full training, and so that's good. That at least puts him in, at least for selection. And you also have George Bello, of course, as we just mentioned, that is kind of working his way back, and so that leads us to it then. I mean, in terms of your predicted 11, what do you think?
I think he's going to go with a 4-2-3-1 because he needs to get more attackers higher up the pitch. I want to see Barco in the 10. He is so far doing his best Miguel Almiron impersonation. He's the one player who can get the ball on the turn and run at opposition defense and make things happen. He's feeling more confident. Next to him, I think you're going to see Julian Gressel on the right. On the left, that's where it gets interesting because if a team sits deep and if he's match fit, I want to see PT Martinez start. If there's a match that sets up perfectly for him to get a goal, to start showing what he came to Atlanta and what he came to MLS for, this is a match that's built for him because Colorado is going to sit deep. You need that technical player who has the key to unlock a defense. I think he's a player that would fit perfectly into that. On the fullback side of things, which is where I think things get really interesting, if Franco Escobar's fit, he better damn well start at right back. Left back, I think Brek Shea is going to be pretty much your only option. Center back, I don't think he's going to drop LGP, unfortunately. LGP probably deserves to get dropped after that last match. Robinson, Guzan, and then your two midfielders got to be Nagbe for one. And I think you got to keep Lorenowitz in there because Rometty's not fully fit and need someone who can sit there and kind of shield the middle of the park. So for me, it's a 4-2-3-1. He's got to get players higher at the pitch. He's got to create chances. He's got to get players in the box. So I'm going to go with that.
For me, it's fairly similar. I agree with you on the 4-2-3-1. Getting the attackers higher up the pitch is pretty vital for this. And so, that front four, I think it's exactly the same for me, but I think it's the back line. It's, Escobar seemingly has been practicing as well. And
if he's fit, he's got to play, right?
Exactly. And so for me, though, who actually gets dropped? Well, LGP, yes, like you were saying, and I agree, he probably should be dropped for this match to at least, you want to see what type of performance he would put if he does get benched after a really bad performance.
Like, and if you needed to bring someone in for a match, Colorado's kind of the one.
It's one that you could, but since he was making those forays on the left and, you kind of see him, he was kind of making some really good chances on the attacking side. I would put him as the left back. It's insane. But, you know, I think at this point,
interesting. At this point, why the hell not, right?
Exactly. Against a team like this, he is, you know, he's not the quickest, but he can defend on the wing a little bit. Yeah, I have LGP as a left back. I have Parkey as the left center back, and then Miles Robinson as that right center back. So for me, still, you know, a little bit more solid at this point in the middle, with cooler heads maybe. And, you know, we'll kick on from there and hope that we can get the result that we want, which is, what do you think?
I'm going to be very bullish. I haven't been bullish yet this year, but I feel so strongly that if you cannot put this team to the sword, you are not in a great place, and De Boer will really slide a lot. I will not have many excuses to give him if they cannot go and secure a result against this team. I'm going for a 4-0. This team's not good. Let's put some goals past them. Let's see some of the old Atlanta United. This is the team that you can do it against. Put a marker down. Let's kick on. Let's put the stupidity of this season behind us and start picking up some points and getting some results. I'm going for a 4-0 win for Atlanta United.
Yeah, I love that. I can't be as bullish as you are, but and I think it's just because, yeah, I mean, you know, yes, we kind of saw that we were lacking in our finishing, and I think it still is slightly gonna be there a little bit, but I think, you know, we can still pull out a 2-0 win. And so with that, I mean, that's still, you know, seeing a couple of guys, hopefully our attackers put the ball in the back of the net, I think will do wonders for the confidence. Hopefully they are Colossos, and they will...
Hopefully one's a PT Martinez banger.
Exactly.
That would be fantastic. That's one of my 4 goals, is a PT banger.
PT banger.
Barco banger and a brace for Joseph. I'd be cool with that.
Okay, cool. All right. I think Tito needs to see the back of the net. Maybe he comes on later and...
Okay, 5-0. I'm all about it.
Perfect. But that does it for our match preview, and it gets us to our question of the day.
Pretty straightforward, guys. Is the Colorado Rapids match a must-win game for Frank De Boer and his tenure at Atlanta United? Get down in the comments below and let us know what you guys think, along with your score predictions.
And guys, that does it for us today. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, smash that like button, and share this video because it really does help us a lot. And for Tanner McLeod, I'm AJ. Thank you guys so much for watching.